This is Raspberry Lemonade, the Arnold Palmer of podcasts, a refreshing dive into the stories of industry professionals, both sweet and sour. And now your host, Mr. Levi.
And we're back on Raspberry Lemonade. How you doing today? Here with my good friend Miki
Ram
in the house. How's it going? How you feeling today?
Man, dude, it's been a crazy fall so far with the thunderstorms and the economy in Russia, but we're hanging in there. I know you are.
Yeah, trying. It's like, yeah, just the weather too. It's been really weird. In California, we're not used to such drastic weather change.
I'm getting flood advisories. What is that?
You're getting flooded by what?
Flood advisories.
Oh, I know.
It's like, what is a flood advisory?
What does that even mean?
Yeah, this is in Florida, but you know, no offense to those in Florida. We love you. Thoughts and prayers.
Definitely. But yeah, things are crazy, you know, on the world stage right now, but we're trying to stay, you know, focused on our own thing, right? Try to make do with what we have, and just try to make our lives a little better, you know, as best we can.
Well, the fact of the matter is, Levi, this is basically another one of those accountability podcast episodes, and knowing how the world stage is right now, knowing what our goals are as our own entrepreneurs. Let's get right to it. I gotta see where you're at. I gotta see what's going on with your entrepreneurial outreach and goals and all that other stuff.
Okay, well, as you know, obviously, because you were like one of the first people that I did a podcast with. Started podcast. It's gonna be almost 3 months, believe it or not.
I remember.
Yeah, and it's been going. You know, we've had a lot of support. Now we're on video, which is cool, right?
Yeah.
Hoping that we could continue with that. There's been a lot of people who have asked me how they can help, you know, support the podcast. Basically, they're like, you know, whatever you need, or like if you need a guest, like I have someone in mind, or just giving advice and suggestions too as far as equipment goes. Like right now we're recording on Apple, not sponsored, but Apple, if you're listening.
Tim Cook, you know where we're at.
You
know where you can find us.
So, you know, we're definitely starting off small, but we're working in the right direction, and we're just taking action. We're working with what we got. And yeah, I think this is going to be the main thing that I want to focus on for a little while. Mm-hmm. The podcast, I feel like I would be able to provide a lot of value through doing these podcasts because of the different guests that I'm able to get on the podcast. And hopefully as time goes on, kind of bigger names or kind of more authority type, and depending on what industry they're on, to get on the show. And yeah, just continuing to network with people, continuing to try to connect with the audience, just listen to see what they are looking for, what they need. And I want to be that person for them. I want to be that person that they can go to, that they need some sort of resource or become that resource actually. Mm-hmm. Like whatever you need, like chances are I know a guy, you know, that type of deal.
A guy who knows a guy who knows a guy.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I actually wanted to ask you. I've seen how you network with people, be it at seminars or mastermind groups and everything, right? What would you say, and I'm not belittling anybody who's, you know, a smaller fish in the pond, or, you know, praising anyone who's a bigger fish, but what are one of the smaller connections that you've made that have made a big impact on you? And then a bigger connection that you made that you never thought you'd meet them in person or get to interview them, however briefly.
Okay, so like starting with like the smaller quote unquote. Mm-hmm.
You're still a winner.
Yeah, no, I think everyone literally that I've met since I joined this Future Flipper program, mm-hmm. it's everyone has been super inviting and super helpful. Mm-hmm. You know, everyone's at a different level, but especially like the more experienced, you know, people in the program. You know, some of them have a different personality than I, but there's something about them that they, for whatever reason, they saw something in me. Yeah. And they've invited me to their flips that they're working on. I've been able to help them out in that sense, kind of help them record some content for them.
Even though but you've actually found a couple properties for some people, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I got my first finder's fee about a month ago. I want to say
it was mine. I'm kidding. I no, I wasn't.
But yeah, so like stuff like that, you know, and, definitely being kind of like the connector, even in the real estate sense. But just yeah, I'd say probably that person. His name is Mark. Shout out to Mark, like for giving me the opportunity to walk your flip. I'd never had that opportunity before, and I was able to see closer, you know, to firsthand how that works, how that looks, kind of preparing the home to be able to put it on the market, and the staging, you know, to make it look like it's being lived in, or kind of give the potential buyer an idea of how it's going to look. Yeah. And that always increases your chances of buying or them buying the home. I mean, absolutely.
I saw that you've been touring properties and you've been meeting people, and I think it's so cool that I'm not belittling what you've done already, but this is such a large machine. The whole real estate scheme or the real estate machine is so big, and you forget that you need small connections or synapses circuits such as you to kind of keep the machine going. There's big cogs in the machine. There's big circuit boards. There's Grant Cardone. There's all those other people, you know, even Donald J. Trump, who have made, you know, enormous amounts of money, but they forget about the smaller guys who are out there making things happen. Because the smaller things, I mean, the smaller leads are where the money's at in the long run. Yeah. Not everybody can buy a skyscraper, guys.
Right. At least not right off the bat, right? Like it takes time definitely to build those relationships.
Maybe someday.
Miki Ram Hotel.
No hotel. No.
Not a hotel.
No hotels, bro.
But yeah, it's definitely, it's a process, and I know that I am very capable of maintaining relationships, you know, because, you know, we've been friends for almost a decade, actually, just about. Yeah. We're almost there, and so, you know, we've seen and gone through stuff together, you know, so it's definitely not always.
We have literally traveled the world together.
Literally have traveled the world, yeah. Have some great experiences on that end too, and trials even within those trips, like Italy, bro.
Never forget the Italy argument.
Oh my gosh, jeez. You want to tell that story real quick?
Okay, long story short, it was near the end of our trip in Italy, and where were we, in Rome?
We were back in Rome. Yeah,
we were back in Rome, and Levi, being the ever patient person that he is, and me being the ever impulsive maniac that I am, I wanted to go ahead and just find some place that we were looking for. I was like, no, it's this way. And Levi was like, why don't we just ask for directions? And I said, no, Apple Maps says it's here. And Levi was like, let's ask for directions. And it just escalated into this big fight. And he went his way, I went my way. We both got lost in the city. And coincidentally enough, we ended up back in the same spot. And we just kind of shook it off, and we're just like, so we should get going.
Yeah, it was getting late too.
It was. And then that night we spent it in the car, sleeping in like 30-degree weather because we ran out of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And our flight was like at 5, 6 in the
morning?
It
was like at 6 in the morning. So it didn't make any sense to get a hotel at that point anyway.
Ain't nobody paying for an Airbnb.
Yeah.
Sorry for all you Airbnb people listening. I'm not paying for your Airbnb.
Not no more.
For a 4-hour stay? Never again.
Heck no. Never again.
Never happened, actually. Just kidding.
So yeah, so stuff like that, you know, happens in any relationship, whether it's a friendship, you know, with a spouse, business, whatever it is. There's always stuff that comes up where you bump heads. So I know that is also to be expected with any type of business relationship as well. But I mean, as long as for the most part you at least have the same end goal, at least have the same vision, like all this other stuff, like it's not going to be important in the long run. Yeah. So just catering to the person, and if the person is willing to also be of service to you, it's a symbiotic relationship, and those are the ones that you want to, you know, find and nourish. Yeah,
and those are the smaller connections that snowball into a bigger movement that you're working on creating. But then what are the bigger kind of names, or probably the more known presences in the real estate community that you've been able to meet and or even interview?
So I actually have, technically, that's very short little interview that I'm going to be posting very soon.
Mhm.
You know, at the time of this recording. It's a lady entrepreneur, and her name is Heather Blankenship, and she is like the coolest person ever.
That's such a cool last name.
Right? Yeah. She's, I don't want to get the numbers wrong, but somewhere like, I don't know, she's made like 30 or 50 million on RV parks and that type of business. Yeah. And actually, she just agreed recently, again, at the time of this recording, that she'd be willing to be interviewed on this podcast.
What?
So I'm really looking forward to that. Sometime, I think we're setting it for sometime in November or so. So it should be out, you know, if it happens, maybe end of November, beginning of December of this year.
So our friend Melissa will be married by then.
Yes.
Shout out to Melly.
You know who you are. I hope you know who you are by now.
Do you know who you are?
Do you know who you are?
No more. No time for those deep questions. We're with Levi right now.
Yeah.
That's amazing though. Like, I mean, 30 to 50 million. Yeah, it's eclipsed by some of the bigger names out there, but ultimately, like, you got to understand, you know how long it takes for somebody with a regular or an average salary to make $1 million after taxes?
It could take a whole lifetime.
It'll take a whole lifetime.
Yeah.
And this woman has managed, this boss lady has managed to, you know, create an empire that is making the amount of money that would take 50 lifetimes to make.
Exactly. And
like, that to me is mind blowing, and that is definitely a major player that I'm excited to hear the interview.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And like I said, you know, the few interactions that we had in person, amazing. She was actually the one that gave me the push to go get on stage and start making content like more consistently.
Yeah.
That was her. She did that. And like, I'm forever grateful, you know, shout out to you, Heather. Like, I can't wait to interview you.
Shout out to you, Heather. I've never met you, but you sound awesome. And that's one of the things. It's like those bigger names, those bigger people, those people that have already made it, instead of bringing other people down, which was kind of the norm in pre-Y2K, which was like what we were talking about with Russell the other day, where it's like, it was like, I'm here at the top of the skyscraper and you could never get here.
Right.
Now, a lot of people that have made it in, you know, to such a level of success, instead of bringing other people down, they're doing things like that. They're seeing this little fish in the big pond or the big ocean, you know, looking at them wide-eyed and excited and saying, hey, you know what, you get up here and you show people what you got. Yeah. And I think that's so cool.
It's amazing. It's beautiful.
But Levi, that's what I wanted to get to, because remember, as part of our accountability thing, we were going to talk about gratitude.
Yes.
But with that comes, you know, that sense of bravery or valor of wanting to step up and do what you've always wanted to do. Right. You know, how did gratitude play a part in all of this? Because if you're miserable, if you're unhappy, if you're just like, none of this is worth it, then you're never going to reach your goals. You know, some of the most, you know, the people with the most avarice are sometimes the people with the least amount of money. You know, it's not about ambition. Ambition is good. Ambition helps create, you know, cures for cancer. It helps create, you know, the spaceships or satellites that give us these forms of communication. But avarice is the thing that kills mankind. It's the thing that you don't know when to stop. Right. Hurting people to get what you want, right?
Exactly.
So let's not talk about avarice. I'm talking about ambition. You know, how did gratitude help you become a positively ambitious person?
I like that. I like how that sounds. Yeah. Yeah, and I like how you put that, because for the longest I thought ambition was a bad thing to have.
Yeah, ambition is the big bad.
Right. And it's like, no, I don't want to be that guy. But when coming from a good place, or, you know, with the right motivation even, it can be a very good driving force to get to where you want. To, you know, where you want to be, or what type of life you want to have, in so many ways. Yeah. So gratitude for me has been so important, because if you're not grateful for what you have right now, you're never going to be happy, even if you do find a way to get closer to where you want to be, or have more, quote unquote. Yeah. Like no amount of things, no amount of relationships are ever going to fill that void. So it starts with right now being grateful for just even being alive, like being alive, being able to breathe, having food in the refrigerator, having a refrigerator, because there's people in the world that don't even have that.
There's a stand-up comedian that I saw their Netflix special the other day, and he was serious. It was a joke, but at the end of the day, it's kind of an eye-opener. He said, by world standards, everybody who lives in the U.S., be it lower or middle class, is Jeff Bezos by world standards.
Yeah.
Global standards. Do you understand how mind-blowing that is?
Yeah,
like you can walk 10 feet, open the faucet, and you're going to have clean water come out of there.
Exactly.
And you take those things for granted.
Yeah, it's so easy to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's where gratitude comes in. So I've been practicing gratitude, because I think, unfortunately for humans, at least I know for myself, I don't know, in your case, it always comes easier to want to shift or focus on the negative.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh, it's so easy.
Right. It's like, my life is terrible. My life this, or of course this happened to me. That type of attitude,
Yeah.
And so I've been practicing gratitude a little more, and it's made such a huge difference in my life, because it's also helped in the sense, like, when things do happen, because things will happen that are not very ideal in your life,
Mm-hmm.
and it's out of your control most of the time. And even in those situations, like, I think back to even like a couple of years ago, how the person that I was then, how now practicing gratitude helped me also have a little more control over my emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and a little more control over how I respond or react to the situation.
And that's where true power comes from. Because like you said, most of the things that happen to us in life, we have no control over. You have no control over, if X person is going to hire you or fire you, if X person is going to, like, support you or bring you down, or if X person is going to love you or hate you. Like, you don't have control over those things.
Exactly.
But the real power comes from how you react to it.
Yeah.
But you can't react positively to anything if you don't find that gratitude in you to keep going in a positive way.
Yeah, 100%. And so gratitude for me has been like, even be grateful for the negative things that happened in the past,
Mm-hmm.
like things that happened in the past that really marked me in a negative way, and that I would see them as a negative thing for the longest time. There were bad things to go through, but at the end of the day, like, I'm grateful that they happened, because had they not happened, or had I not gone through that, maybe I wouldn't be who I am now.
No, because those experiences shape you.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, negative experiences do shape us and traumatize us, and can hold us back from bettering ourselves in so many aspects of life. But in this case, like, you're going through this entrepreneurial journey. How are you so sure that the next hurdle that you have to jump over won't be the one that makes you close up shop, or, close that rosebud and just never want to open up again?
That's the thing. I don't know.
Okay.
But that's also okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess at the same time, it's like, now, because I know that I've gone through some very tough things already,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still alive, I'm still okay, I'm still breathing, added, with that gratitude now, for even the smallest things, like, it would have to be something marginally terrible,
Mm-hmm.
that I would have to be like, okay, I guess this is where I stop.
Something truly catastrophic.
Some completely like that, reasonably no human would be like, that's it, I can't keep going. With that said, there's very few things that where that circumstance now, I see that, like, it's a very, it had to be something truly, like, out of this world that now stops me from continuing and not giving up.
Yeah.
Like,
Now you see things in perspective.
Exactly.
You see things in a different light. You've read the Richest Man in Babylon, right?
Yes.
You see the light through a different colored lens now.
Definitely.
My dad and I actually had this conversation the other day. We were talking to somebody. We love them to death. They're the best people in the world. Everyone to me is amazing. You're a friend until proven guilty. Until you prove otherwise, you're a friend the moment I approach you. But even then, my dad and I were talking to this person that we really appreciate, and they were telling us that they just feel so down because they're about $15,000 in debt.
15?
15.
Okay.
And me and my dad, we didn't don't take it the wrong way. We didn't criticize them at home. Like, oh, they can't believe that they're like this. It was crazy to us because multiply that amount by 100.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about something serious.
Right.
Multiply that amount by 100. And then it's like that. I mean, if this person's losing their mind over 15 grand. And my dad was like, if that person had the amount of debt that we had a year or two ago, they would have died of like a stroke
or something. Yeah.
Because it will knock you down. It'll kill you.
Mm-hmm.
That amount of stress. That's what I'm saying. Those are the things that I mean, that right now in your entrepreneurial journey, if that becomes a hurdle, let's say you it's a hit and miss on your next business venture, and you end up really in debt. It's not impossible, is that going to be the catalyst that just makes that rose close up and just never want to open back up?
Okay,
again?
now I'm understanding your question.
That's what I mean. Not something, not like the tragedy of a loved one. Like, geez,
right.
that would, I mean, I've talked to people that I look up to, that I get, good counsel from, and they tell me, hey, if I were to lose my wife, I don't know what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to lose, my family, I would probably fall into a very deep pit emotionally. I get that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about things that other people, like I said, this person's telling us I'm losing my mind over 15 grand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, on a personal,
it's like, must be nice.
yeah, I'm like, I would do anything to trade places with you.
Right.
Like, that amount of debt is amazing for me. In my eyes, it's like, it's borderline, not in a cruel or cynical way, but it's laughable because my father and I in our business ventures have accumulated so much more debt than that.
Right, right. So something like that, for sure, like, it would definitely be daunting.
Mm-hmm.
But no, if anything, I would have to now even go harder on what I've already, learned and take even more action. Take, like, really, if anything, go out swinging, because like I know better now. Like,
mm-hmm.
even if it did come to that where I was in like 100K in debt,
mm-hmm.
Because a deal went wrong or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, like, that's fine. Like, now it's,
what are the notes that you're going to take from that experience?
well, yeah, I would have to definitely see and look back. Okay, what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong?
Mm-hmm.
What can I do next time so that doesn't happen? And now let's get to work. Like, because I have to get out of that debt. Like, it's not like I could, I guess,
Close up shop.
Yeah, close up shop and declare bankruptcy or whatever. But that's the easy way out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it would just mean I have to go harder now.
Yeah.
Like, I can't give up at that point.
Let me tell you a little something. I have a relative, love them to death. They're a great father, great family man. He is not legal. He crossed the border illegally many years ago, and for the longest time he had a lawnmower repair shop. And I know it's like, haha, Mexicans, lawnmowers, hardy.
I didn't even think about that.
Hardy. No, seriously. This person had a lawnmower shop, and he was making really, really good money. He not only had a thriving business, he actually landed a contract with the city of Huntington Beach.
Wow.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Without having, papers in the U.S.
Yeah.
He's not a U.S. citizen. He's not even a resident, not even a work permit. And this guy found the means, the motivation, and the willpower to educate himself on opening a business, starting a corporation, and then learning how to land a government contract. That's a big deal.
It is.
It's a huge deal. But what we're talking about, like I said, is gratitude.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he ran into a lot of things in his life that just killed his spirit. And I can't blame him. It wasn't the death of a loved one. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It wasn't anything catastrophic like that.
Gotcha.
Nothing close to that. But it was a bunch of small things that started just like a drop of water. It just started falling on that rock that he had created, this business mindset that he had, cultivated. And eventually it started making a hole in that rock. It started cracking that rock. And there's small things that became major things that unfortunately closed his business down for good at the end of last year. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
It's horrible to hear that, because he was going strong for a long time. Even during COVID, he wasn't worried about that. People still needed their gardens tended to, and he was still fixing up lawnmowers like there was no tomorrow. So in your case, or not your case, in his case, when he was talking to my father, you could hear the defeat in his voice, and you could hear his strain to find a positive outlook on his circumstances. before he was in trouble financially, during his financial troubles, and now afterwards. And that's why I'm asking you right now, you know, like right now you haven't started anything major yet and you have this positive attitude. When you're going through the motions and you're kind of going through those growing pains, you know, you've got to keep that positive and grateful mindset.
Yeah.
But if things don't pan out, where does the gratitude, you know, stem from? That's going to tell you, you know what, let me rise from these ashes and let me go on to the next move.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, I think for most people, like I'm married, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know as long as I have my wife by my side,
Mm-hmm.
we have enough to at least have a roof over our head,
Mm-hmm.
and we have food on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, I think that's it.
Yeah.
We'll be okay. Because we'll have each other, so we'll have that support system.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have food, so we can sustain ourselves, our bodies, literally, physically,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll have a roof over our head, so we can rest and recharge for the next day.
Yeah.
So, no matter how bad it gets at this point,
Mm-hmm.
like, sure, like, have at it, like,
Have at it.
just like come at me, because if I have those three things, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. And that's, you know, in conjunction to what we've talked about in the past, that's kind of living fearlessly, but also not being afraid to live. Those are two different things.
Yes.
You know,
I agree.
You cannot be afraid to live if you're really going to go for the entrepreneurial lifestyle.
Yeah.
On a personal note, not being afraid to live, you know, whether it's in business, in my personal life, whatever it is, any part of my life, living fearlessly has opened me up to the biggest disappointments and the biggest heartbreaks, the biggest letdowns, or whatever you want to call them, right? And those are kind of things that anybody else goes through them, it'll definitely knock you down. It almost knocked me down. I'm not saying that I'm strong enough to overcome it. If it wasn't for the people in my life, I would have been gone a long time ago, you know, just emotionally and in a business sense and in every sense. So for me, I've had that, like you said, that ability to see who's in my life and then be grateful for them and fight to keeping on.
Exactly.
When those moments get really, really bad.
Yeah.
You know, but you cannot be afraid to live. Like you said, once you open yourself to that disappointment, it sucks looking at your bank account, seeing that it's so low on funds, your business bank account. Your personal, well, that's another story. But your business bank account, seeing that it's so low on funds, knowing that there's no checks coming in on the horizon, there's 0 jobs coming in, and that your debt is at its peak limit. Like you couldn't borrow a peanut from an elephant. Like that's it. Like you're toast, dude. Hitting that moment, that low financially is devastating. Like I said, I mean, this lovely person was bummed about owing $15,000, saying, you know what, I should just give up and I'll just go back to my, you know, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Cause it's like, dude, seeing 6 zeros on a debt call is terrifying. And that's something that'll kill your spirit. It'll break your heart. It'll bring you to your knees, and, you know, but you can't be afraid to live. You know, you're like, the gratitude that you have towards the people that have helped you in life, even the ones that didn't, even the ones that were responsible for hurting you, or the ones that were responsible for bringing you down, at a certain point, you cannot dwell on that and just say, oh, you know what, like, this is how it's going to be forever because I failed.
Right.
You know, like, you can't be afraid of trying again.
Yeah.
You know,
because then there's like no, I mean, if, and you know, it's unfortunate. A lot of people kind of do live their life that way, where they kind of are for some odd reason or circumstance, like they've never had to deal with something that major. Yeah. And it's the one thing that just completely crumbles them forever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it's so easy to do that. But if you don't take a step back and it's like, okay, well, this is happening, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's something wrong with me, or it doesn't necessarily mean that I did something wrong.
You could have.
Could have. And maybe, you definitely be accountable for the parts that you were at fault.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that you should give up on trying to either fix the situation or make it better, or in the very least find a better perspective on it.
Yeah.
Because that's something that you can do and you do have control over. If you don't do that, then you're just being, what's the word? Like you're kind of just accepting your defeat.
Yeah. And we're not talking about depression here, because depression can hit you out of nowhere, and it can really just throw the wrench in the gears of everything that you're working so hard to build or to push for.
Right.
We're not talking about that. We're just talking about moments that hit you hard, and instead of overcoming them, you let them win.
Mm-hmm.
You let life happen to you instead of letting life happen for you.
Right.
I remember this one person in my life, they were left by their spouse.
Mm.
And it was like everybody that knew her and was around her knew that it happened. He made sure that everybody knew that it happened and why he wanted to. It was really devastating. Left that person with the kids and everything. Like, wow. I've known people that have died of broken hearts.
Yeah,
literally
it's a thing.
Died of broken hearts.
Yeah,
it's not just a lovebirds thing, like the animal, not the person. I've met people that have died of broken hearts, and or new people. And this person literally went through something that is just like, you see it and you're like, if I were to go through that, would I be strong enough to go through it?
Right.
To overcome it. And this person not only took it, but they made sure that the kids were good emotionally. They made sure to carry that family on, even when they were just by themselves at this point. And, like I said, other people will die from their first teenage heartbreak.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they'll never, they let themselves go. They never date.
No.
They never give that a shot because of what happened in high school. Right.
A relative of mine went 4 decades as an alcoholic because of a teenage heartbreak.
Dang.
4 decades.
Yeah.
And this person, as an adult, a strong adult with kids, was left by their spouse for petty reasons, and they were still strong enough to overcome it. A decade later, they're still going strong. Can't say that it's easy. I'm not saying they don't suffer from depression or something, but they haven't let it win.
Exactly. Yes.
And now on a financial standpoint, I've met people that have declared bankruptcy many, many times, or they've been borderline about to declare bankruptcy many, many times, and they came out of that.
Yeah.
And now there's some of the most successful people that I've met, and I look up to them, and they're amazing. And other people that I know, unfortunately, they owed $2,000 to a credit card, and they got fired that day. And from there, it was a downhill slope, and they got addicted to antidepressants. They got addicted to antipsychotics, other things. And you just see them fall into this downhill spiral over $2,000.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you would have told me, I would have lent you the money, dude. I never wanted to see you like this.
Right.
And it's crazy. My father has been in the millions range of being in debt, and he's been able to overcome it. And other people, like I said, have gotten into really bad benders because they owe $2,000.
Mm-hmm. So
it's so surprising that, or it's so important that we do what we can right now, especially in this world climate, this political climate, this economic, crisis that's going on all over the world. We got to keep a positive outlook on things.
Yeah.
We can't let, Levi, my first real estate deal went south, and I thought I was going to sell this house for a profit, but now houses are worth half of what they're worth.
Right.
I'm doomed. I'm ruined. Like,
it's
really?
like, no, I mean, like, yeah, it sucks. Wasn't ideal, especially if it was your first one. Like,
yikes.
But if you really want to make it work, you will definitely find a way, as long as that's your focus. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, how do I pivot now? What do I do differently now? How do I learn from this? And another quote that really stuck with me and has stuck with me that was also mentioned at the mastermind, dude. This mastermind, I'm telling you, I have to get you to it somehow.
I'm gonna get around to it, I swear. I'm just too busy buying colored Converse.
But the phrase was like the definition of learning, right? Learn. What does that mean? And the way this guy, Alex Hormozy, shout out to Alex Hormozy, the way he put it was, to learn is to have the same circumstances, different behavior. And I'm like, wow, it's like he put it so simple, but it's so true. Like I started thinking back at all the times I had failed, and it wasn't until I adjusted my behavior, where that was my outlook on life, my perspective, my lack of gratitude, whatever.
Yeah.
The moment I changed that, that's when things got better. That's when things were, manageable.
And reaching for the source, because we this podcast, we at the beginning we talked about like our travels, right?
Yeah.
I remember you guys. I mean, Levi's always been this a friendly, approachable person who's charismatic. I mean, that's never stopped being the case for him. But he was on a completely different mindset when I first met him, and it was one of those things where me talking about my business endeavors would kind of irk him, or kind of like it wasn't something that he wanted to indulge me in. Conversing about business,
right?
Mainly because it felt like such an unnecessary thing to do in life.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you say kind of helped you be, more accepting towards the serious possibility of failing in business, but keeping a positive attitude with what you've experienced in our travels? I mean, you've been it was Costa Rica now too, but in our travels as friends, where I saw you evolve, like what people or what experiences or things that you saw in those countries kind of helped you open your eyes to having a more positive outlook.
It's funny that you asked that question, because as you're asking it, the one kind of memory that comes to mind is when we were in Ecuador.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in the city of Quito, where mitad del mundo is, middle of the world, center of the world. I don't know what it's called in English. And we stayed at this like janky little hostel because that's what we could afford for the night.
Yuck.
And
I was so upset.
Yeah, I remember. But at some point in the day, like I was locked in that restroom because like the handle was like, I don't know what happened. Like it got stuck somehow. And I remember you being out there. It's like, Levi, you good? I'm like, I think I'm stuck in here. And you're just like busting laughing. I was like, what do you mean, bro? Like
I did not help him out.
You not at all. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna. And then like my first thought was like, okay, there's this tiny window here. Like maybe I have to crawl out of it or something. Mind you, we were a second story, so I don't even know how that would have worked out. But my mind immediately went to like, okay, what do I have? What can I use? What do I do? Like let's make a game plan here.
Yeah.
And literally, I kid you not, like I had taken my like one of those like electric toothbrushes with me, because the only way that I could think of getting out was either busting the door, like kicking it down, which we probably would have had to pay for if I did that. So I was like
$10.
Maybe, but that's something
it's
I
the
did.
Principle of it.
Exactly. Like I didn't want to destroy property unless I really had to, unless that was the only option. But the only other thing that I could think of was like, okay, well, if I remove the handle, then I could literally just push the door open.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's just how the doors work. But I didn't have a screwdriver with me, obviously, because we were traveling. You
don't bring your screwdriver to your world travel?
I do now, actually. I literally have little screwdriver keys on my keychain.
I need a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, dude. But anyways, I got the toothbrush. I took off like the piece that has the bristles, and the thing it connects to, it's like literally like a very thin, almost like a flathead screwdriver, and that's what I used.
You MacGyvered your way out of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that was like one of the first times that I remembered like being in a situation where I was like, well, if I don't do anything, I'm literally going to be stuck in here for who knows how long, maybe hours or something before the maintenance guy or whatever showed up.
Yeah.
Or
I was not going to use my muscles to bust that door. Seemed like a waste of pretty good muscles.
Yeah, only a good friend would have done that.
Oh, yeah. God forbid I did that.
And also, I don't think you didn't. Maybe you thought I was screwing around or something.
It was real. Because,
right.
I mean, to all those listening and who don't know Levi personally, he used to spend, I don't know, somewhere around 2 hours in the bathroom getting beautiful. Then he found out he didn't need to do all that. It's a compliment. Take it.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Yeah. But no, he used to spend a long time in the bathroom. So I thought he was kidding. I was like, he'll be out in a bit.
Yeah.
And I think I fell asleep or something.
So yeah, point is that I literally used that. I started taking off the screws one by one. And finally, like I literally just pushed the door. Once I took the handle off, it was easy to
Just
push it
flew
open. Yeah. And you're like, and then like I remember walking out and me holding the handle, and you're like looking at me like, what the heck?
It was only then when I realized that Levi had it out for me, because that looked like a shiv.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of when my mind started working in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to when you suggested reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, that also helped widen my perspective on things, and from there it was a snowball effect. But before that story or that situation, honestly, I probably would have been like, no, dude, like seriously, go get a maintenance guy or something, or no, seriously, like I can't get out.
Yeah.
And would have like freaked out or something and panicked.
Yeah, Levi was not the hands-on kind of guy.
Exactly. So I don't know. Sometimes I guess it's up to you how you're gonna confront something, even to something as simple as that or small.
Yeah.
It tells you a lot about your character. We've had to go through some more difficult things since then, but we've come out of them, and that's all it is. Like just looking at what you got in front of you and seeing how you can use it towards the situation that's right in front of you. Because
and would you say that like if things went south on some business deal, because you're into real estate right now and that's good, would you say that then afterwards, because I know contractors and investors alike that have wanted to invest in something that they thought was either going to be a quick, get rich quick scheme, or they really thought it was going to be their time, and then the recession hit, a recession of the like zillion that we've had, a recession hit, and now they're really bitter towards that industry. Now they're really bitter towards the idea of investing in this or that.
Yeah.
Even in personal experiences, people after they've been backstabbed or whatever, they're hurt, unintentionally. Maybe the other person didn't mean to. They hold it against them, and they're like, oh, I'm just disgusted, or I have a bad taste in my mouth from this person or this group of people that did this to me. So now I don't ever want to be around them again. Would that be the case for you in real estate? Do you know? Do you not know? Or do you think you kind of know?
I think I kind of know. If it ever came to that,
yeah,
literally the same thing. Like I would have to see what's in front of what's in my arsenal.
Yeah.
See if maybe like, okay, take the L and just look for the next deal. Or if I see that I obviously am not good at real estate, because that could be the case too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm literally just starting. I don't have the experience to be able to like, okay, I really suck at this,
Yeah.
If it came to that point.
But if you noticed that you really sucked at something, what would you do?
I would either find the right people to help me, make it happen, or I would literally, find a different way to, deal with that debt in this case, right? Like I would have to find, maybe that means, finding a different method. Maybe that means finding a different income stream. Maybe that means, I don't know, like there's always a way if you really want to, and if you have the grit to not give up, because that's the biggest thing. As soon as you give up, like no one can tell you anything, no one can motivate you enough, no one can even give you the resources to help you get out of that situation, and it'll help you because you've already given up.
Let me share a little nugget of wisdom that I got through the most unexpected source ever. And that was that, right now you're talking about a lot of really good inspirational things. You're talking about grit, fearlessness, things that we've covered in the past. And I'm sure everybody is imagining their favorite reel on Instagram that has motivated them to get out of bed when times are tough. And that's great. I love those, especially the Rocky Balboa ones.
Oh, dude, that one's like one of my favorite.
There is no tomorrow. I love that one because there really isn't tomorrow. I could die on the car ride home right now. Who knows? But what the unexpected source of wisdom that I found and that completely just changed my outlook, and it's because I've always had that mindset inside me in some way. Kids.
Okay, you have to elaborate on that.
If you're religious, even Jesus talked about, the way kids can help people.
Yeah, that's true.
Be smarter. Because when you're an adult, I mean, we're adults now. I like to believe that we're adults.
Oh, we try.
My hair's graying and people like to bring it up constantly. So I guess I'm an adult now. I swear.
It looks great, by the way.
People think I'm 17, I swear. No, they don't. You know, when you're an adult, you're set in your ways. It doesn't matter. You could be 21 and you think that you know everything you need to know.
Mm.
You're set in your ways. And if, you know, you're a 21-year-old business person, you're like, no, well, this is the way I was taught and this is the only way that it should be.
Mm.
Forex trading, stocks, crypto, whatever's making you money, whether you're 21 or 41, you're basically set in your ways as an adult because society tells us that once we've learned something, one, we can't unlearn it, and two, it's the right way.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's no other way. And kids don't think like that.
They really don't.
I love hanging around, you know, when I was working in the school district, I loved observing the way the kids thought.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I would see them when we had like the school activities. Hey, make a turkey out of this piece of paper. I remember seeing a kid cut a turkey wrong. And he looked at it, paused. I was like, this kid's about to have a fit, because he was emotionally disturbed. So I thought he was going to throw a really bad fit for cutting it wrong. He looks at it for a little bit, kind of ponders over what he just created, holds it up to his head and says, look, I made a crown.
Nice.
I was like, this kid seriously just turned something so, it was so philosophically deep. Like that was such a profound experience, and this kid has no idea. He's probably living his best life now, not knowing the impact that the profound impact that he had on my mindset while observing him. Because as adults, on our entrepreneurial or on our relationship or on our life's turkey that we're cutting out, you know, we're cutting out what we think is the right way to do things. Like, well, I'm set in my ways, and I think this is how we got to go ahead and go about things, because this is how I saw it work out for somebody else.
Mm.
And then you get to the bottom, and then you're like, I cut it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to throw your whole life away.
Or do you?
Your high school sweetheart broke your heart, so now you got to be drunk for 40 years.
Mm.
Throw your entire life away over one single heartbreak. You know, your lawnmower shop closed down, so now you're sick and disgusted with the idea of being your own boss because it didn't work out. And you're going to live your whole life until you're 80 years old bickering about the entrepreneurial lifestyle. But why don't you see that turkey that you cut incorrectly and see what you can make out of it? Why don't you take that huge mistake and then just turn it into something better? You're talking about collecting L's, right?
Yeah.
One L. Levi, could you please help me with another L? other way.
Oh.
No, the other way. Just flip it. Flip that L around. We got a W.
Bro, that was so cheesy.
Profound.
No, that's true.
But it's cheesy because we as adults don't want to be creative about stuff anymore.
Yeah.
We just want to be like, oh, didn't work out, so that's bad. I'm never going to do that again. It's like, why don't you try it again from a different angle?
Yeah, man. You're right, man.
Why don't you try that same flip? What went wrong? Oh, this went wrong, so I don't ever want to do flips again. Why don't you flip a house? Why don't you flip a car? Why don't you flip an RV? Yeah. This woman that you're talking about with her $50 million empire, she went through RV. Like, she maybe failed at real estate. She maybe failed at stationary homes. Who knows? And she found mobile home parks. Other people have found campsites. They get creative. They take whatever else they've collected in life and they turn it into a W, like that little kid with the paper turkey.
I love that's like my favorite metaphor now, dude. Like anytime, yeah, like I'm definitely gonna think about that now. And it's true. Like I also worked at the district for a while, and these kids are so smart. Like there are those that, you know, even if, I guess maybe it even starts at a young age, that do
not the sharpest tools in this.
Yeah, and like they just rather do, you know, have a fit or tantrum or whatever. But I'd say the majority, especially like under like, I don't know,
under 9 years old, I would say, before middle school.
Yeah, most
of them aren't ashamed to admit that they don't know.
Right. And they ask for help, or they themselves find a creative way to make it work.
Find the resources up here or in here to just keep going.
Yeah. Dude, you're absolutely right, man. I miss those days, but
they're still here. That's the crazy thing. Like a lot of adults want to be like, oh, if I could be a kid again, I would do things.
Well, you can
so differently.
You can play the game of life now.
You're playing the game of life. That kid was playing the game of life too, in his own minuscule way, but ultimately he was. Yeah. But like you said, the thing that we do as adults and as a general rule is if an adult wants to live life creatively and if something flips on its head, generally we tell people, well, you failed. It's time to give up. I remember when my business was going real south, the creditors and everybody that I would call and tell them, like, please just give me another month. Like, I'll pay the minimum next month. I swear. I just cannot this month. They would tell me, well, don't you think if a business isn't making you any money that it's time to close up shop?
Wow.
That was mostly everyone, and that's the logical thing to do. If you're an adult, something doesn't work out, Levi, what do we do?
You stop doing it.
Okay. Most pastries, most amazingly delicious meals would never have been created if we got the recipe wrong and did something else instead.
That's true.
Most inventions would have never been created. If the guy that was making microwaves was like, oh, this chocolate bar melted in my pocket, this machine's broken, he would have never turned it into a microwave that cooks amazingly frozen burritos. I ate a tamale today thanks to that microwave,
Yeah.
You don't realize that the people that see something that's turned on its head as a failure, and everybody as a general rule accepts it as a failure and tells you, Levi, you should give up because you failed, and it's okay. Now it's time to join the rest of us in our set ways. If you ignore that and you just say, you know what, this thing's flipped over, but let me flip over with it.
Yeah.
Let me do a handstand and see what it looks like upside down.
There
You never know what you could create.
That's so true, man.
Stop accepting what other people see as failures.
Yeah.
And be grateful that you are where you're at right now. Because people don't understand that whether you're our age, in your late 20s or in your late 30s or 40s, you're never going to be that age again.
Yeah. Yeah. You only get this time, one time around.
To make the mistakes. If you made mistakes, great. Build on them.
Exactly. And learn from it.
Learn from them.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
That's it. And that's it. That was our podcast episode.
I think that's it. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah. But yeah. Okay. So we covered gratitude. We covered, what it means to learn. We covered to not give up so easily, even when it seems like the most logical thing to do. Because a lot of times,
yeah,
and we've both seen it, both firsthand and, through observing others. When we were able to overcome those obstacles or overcome those trials, we come out so much better in the end. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
And I just feel like for me, what's helped, like I've told you, and last year was a terrible financial year and we managed to make it out of that. We're doing much better now this year. Managed to pull a lot of really, really great contracts. Lose a lot of really great contracts, but it's okay. Wins and losses, peaks and valleys.
The two L's.
The two L's, bro. just keep collecting L's and make a W crown. That's it. Turn them into a W crown, like the little kid. But like I said, I mean, there have been difficult moments. To those who don't know me, I don't care if you do or don't. I suffer from depression. It's a terrible thing, a terrible disease that I never want to downplay or give the impression that I am downplaying. But those things, those mental illnesses can really throw a wrench in the gears of what you're trying to do in life.
Oh yeah.
And especially, like I said, I mean, it's a weird and semi-toxic combination of not being afraid to live, but knowing that I deal with depression, And like I said, I mean, not being afraid to live opens me up to great victories, amazing victories, like things that I never thought I could experience in my life. But it also opens me up to, disappointments, difficulties, heartbreaks that I never thought I'd have to deal with in my life.
Right.
And yeah, at the moment, they definitely bring you down. They stomp you out and they can really, really, really hurt. You've met people. I've met people that just show you what real failure or real loss looks like. Or they show you what real wins look like.
Right.
Dude, I met this guy. If you've met people, I've met people too. I just met this client and I want to get him on this show. Let's root for him. I'm not going to say his name because he hasn't given me permission to yet. But
we'll bleep it out. I'm just kidding.
This bleep. No. He just total normal dude. I ended up being becoming his installation contractor. He has a property management company. This dude grosses more than his one business. He didn't want to talk about his other business. This one business that he has grosses $300 million a year.
Wow.
And he's like the chillest dude ever. And it's like, dude, and he's not young. So, but I was like, man, how did you survive the last few recessions? Like, I understand if you're 85 and you bought houses with a sack of flour in the 1940s, hey, my hat's off to you. I'm not talking bad about you. I'm saying like, that makes sense why you're a real estate mogul, you know? Even Donnie, like he's built high rises and stuff in Manhattan Island. Duh. In the 70s, you could build whatever you want with like 0 inspectors. You know, it's like anybody could do that, you know, but nowadays in this day and age, I mean, he's in his late 40s, I would say early 50s. This dude has that kind of income showing up every year. And it's like, those are the things where it's like, you know, I had a small conversation with him. He showed me a few tricks and tips on real estate. And I told him my goals, my plans, be it in the Midwest, on the East Coast, in South America. And he let me know what to look out for. He let me know what to look forward to, but he also let me know why this was a great idea and why this wasn't such a great idea. And, you know, like you meet those people and whether it's strong people financially or it's strong people spiritually, strong people emotionally or even romantically, you meet those people, and instead of seeing them and being like, oh, it must be nice to make 300 million a year. I'll never know what that's like. You know,
why not?
It must be nice to be so strong emotionally. I can't deal with that because I have depression. Like, hey, how about you shut up and you start finding out why this person is doing so well.
Yeah.
You know, like I've told you in the past, why are you being such a hater?
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you just admitting to yourself, you know, more importantly to yourself, that this person's ahead and you want to know how they did it.
Yeah.
You know, in any case in life. And I think that's really, really helped me out. Because instead of seeing people and just being bitter about the fact that they're light years ahead of you.
Must be nice. Trying to be like you, my boy.
Yeah. Instead of being like that, being that salty person that gives backhanded compliments and all that stuff, that snarky behavior is not going to get you anywhere in life.
It really isn't. If anything, it's going to backfire because you're only going to become even more bitter.
Yeah. And
then you're going to be even more like not in the right mindset, what's the word? Headspace, yeah, to actually mind space.
Sounds like MySpace.
It does.
Shout out to Tom.
Like the more bitter you get,
yeah,
the less you'll be in that mind space to make anything to happen.
No, and I'll admit I was in that headspace for a long time. From like 23-ish to 25, 26, I had struggled so much to get my business going. My business was finally going, and then I became that ungrateful person.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't showing gratitude for the family that I had. I wasn't showing gratitude for where I was at financially. I was like, no, but this 25-year-old has a Lamborghini and I don't, you know, and it's like, so, you know?
Yeah.
Well, this person, you know, they seem to be in a much better spiritual place than I am. And why can't I be him? Why can't I be her? Like, you get there. Why can't I be that happy couple just skipping along the pond? Like, because it's not your time, dude. You don't think about that when you're younger.
Right.
You know, and yeah, I mean, I'm still young. Holla. But I'm saying when you're in your early or even your mid-20s, you're just like, you want it to happen for you so bad.
And as soon as possible. And
anything that isn't that is not enough.
Right.
And like we were talking about, that's how lack of gratitude brings you down. And it puts you in a place that you never want to end up at.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to reach your goals in any aspect of life. And then you're stuck in a deeper place that you don't want it, like an abyss of regret.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've got to dig your way out.
Exactly.
But I think one of the greatest things that somebody that I love to death, his name's Steve Dredge, holla, told me was, a lot of people like to say, I'll be happy when. Levi, I'll be happy when I get my first real estate deal and I make money.
Uh-huh.
I'll be happy when my business starts netting $3 to $4 million a year.
Yeah.
I'll be happy when I get that sweet car I've always wanted in the magazines. I'll be happy when, I mean, you're married, but I'm not saying you, anybody else. I'll be happy when I marry my dream girl, my dream guy. Like, why aren't you happy now?
Exactly.
It's tough. I mean, there's peaks and valleys. I'm not saying that you're not going to have your depressive episodes. Well, why can't you see that in lieu of everything that you think you're lacking, you still have so much to be grateful for?
Yeah.
Why can't you be happy now? Why can't you see the struggle that you're at? Why can't you see your account balance at negative 400 and be like, and still laugh at it and just say, you know what? Next week will be better. But right now, the fun, the thrill of it all is just knowing that I have to find a way to make things better, make ends meet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
100%.
You're like, oh, I'm miserable because I have depression. Yeah, but you're never going to be happy when you're free of your depression. You're going to be happy knowing that you fought the good fight and stayed afloat despite the depression.
There you go. Yeah.
You're not going to be happy when you get that sweet car that you've always wanted. You're gonna be happy while you're struggling to earn that kind of
exactly
income.
While in the trenches.
Yeah,
during the journey.
Yeah, because it's not gonna make you happier to have that car or to have that sweet glass mansion on the beach. Like you're gonna sit there and you're gonna be like those fish from Finding Nemo. You're gonna be like at the end of the movie, Levi, please.
Now what?
Now what? You're literally gonna be that person. You're gonna be sitting there and thinking, now what? I reached what I want to reach. Why am I not happy? Because you were never grateful for what you had while you were going through the struggle or the process of getting what you wanted.
Yeah.
And that's where gratitude plays a part.
That's it. So, yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's been a very good episode, I think.
Very good episode. Sponsored by Ram Insulation.
Hey.
Seriously, though.
Oh, okay. We'll definitely have to talk about that then.
Yeah, just kidding. It's not an endorsement deal. Please don't cut in. Let's cut this part out.
I have video evidence.
No, my attorney's going to call me. Don't do that. Oh.
Yeah. But, yeah, man. I think to wrap it up, basically, keep practicing gratitude. Keep working towards your goal. Don't give up. Even when you really want to, even when it feels like that's what you have to do. Mm-hmm. And what would you say is like the third thing? That's like
the third thing is
the takeaway.
Like I said, stop saying I'll be happy when.
Yeah.
You're happy.
I think that's
now.
a big one.
You're happy now. And I know depression is hard, guys. I know anxiety is difficult. I'm not downplaying any of those things. But I'm saying when you get a good moment of clarity away from the depression or from the anxiety, just take a minute to sit down and write down write in your head, ingrain it in the wrinkles on your brain, what you're happy for right now. Because 10 years from now, those things that you were kind of neglecting or just not seeing as blessings or things that you should be grateful for, they might not be there in 10 years. That person might not be there in 10 years. Those people, that family member, whoever it is, or that opportunity, yeah, you'll probably be in a much better place financially or whatever. But you're going to look back and say, why didn't I tell that person how much I appreciated them? Or why wasn't I honest about how grateful I was for all the growing pains of starting my own business?
That's it. Yeah.
Now it's time for chicken.
That sounds good. But we'll wrap this up then.
Yeah.
We appreciate everyone who came on. Or is on, or I don't even know.
Will be on.
Will be on. Jeez, that's such a terrible segue. Thank you for everyone who's either listening or watching on YouTube for, sitting in, chatting with us, listening to us.
And please, if you're on YouTube, drop in the comment sections maybe another topic you'd like for us to discuss. Another kind of subject on our accountability episodes. Please, we want to hear what you've got to say.
Most definitely.
And please don't stop liking, sharing, commenting on the podcast.
There you go. You beat me to it.
Rate us 5 stars, especially the episodes with me in them.
I don't know. It seems a little biased.
No. It's only biased if they think it's biased.
Yeah. And this is why I love this guy, if you haven't noticed by now. So thank you so much for dropping by. Wishing you a lovely day. Have a beautiful one. And if you'd like to support this podcast, please, click on the link in the description, whether here or on the audio version of it. We want to keep doing this for you guys. This is for you guys. Obviously, it does help us. Personally, I feel like it helps to talk about this. Yeah. So like, thank you for helping me
I
also.
got that off my chest.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm good.
And yeah, with that, we'll leave you. Have a lovely day. Take care.
Stay beautiful. Stay saucy.
This has been a Redbird Studio Productions. Hope you've enjoyed the program.